Welcome guys to Waterloadable episode 16. I'm on Dyno Countdown day 13, so I've got to get all of this stuff done to support the ECU before the 12th of August. So yesterday I did a turbo blanket and a wastegate spring. Today I'm going to fit a low temp thermostat and do a coolant change, and if the correct post comes I'll also do an oil change and a few other bits as well. So a little bit on the low temp stat. This opens up at 62 degrees, whereas the standard stat opens at about 76. Now, when I first got the car, the first problem I had was with it overheating. I fitted this and I never had any problems. Now, I think it was just a bad stat and it wasn't actually the fact that it was a low temp. Later on, I learned that because it was a low temp, the stock ECU was never getting out of its cold start map, which meant that my fuel was really bad. So then I bought a new normal one, which did help fuel, did make it run better. However, I think more by coincidence, I have had overheating problems since. That I think has been down to a faulty radiator cap, and that's all been isolated and proven now. But as I have I will soon have the beauty of being able to change when my cold start map goes on and off, I can fit a low temp stat in order to keep everything that little bit cooler. So that's what I'm going to do today. I did film this once upon a time and I tried to show you a quick method of doing it and everything went wrong, so I ended up deleting stuff. So today we're going to do it and I'm going to take my time. I have gone for a run this morning. It has got up to temperature. Ideally, I'd like to have done this job a little bit sooner than I am now, but I've had a few things to sort out. I don't want it to be baking hot because I'll scold myself, but I do want it to be warmed up. Hopefully the stat will remain open for a bit and let some coolant come out of the block. I am up on the ramps. Big thanks to Gavin for fixing that for me. So one of these welds broke, if you remember. We straightened that out and redid the other side as well, so that's all fixed. So I'm up on the ramps, got the under tray off. That's been off since I did the turbo, just in case I had any leaks. I'm going to get a big tray in a minute and I'm going to undo this Jubilee, this main coolant pipe, and pull that and let it drain. Now I do have a little drain plug in this radiator, however I want to see how much comes out of the blue pipe, because that will tell me how much coolant is drained from the actual engine and not just from the radiator, because then I'll know how prepared to be when I come to take off the thermostat itself, because the last few times I've done it, when I've done it, it's all leaked out on me. So I'm trying to get one step ahead from that and get it all safely drained beforehand. So I'm going to make a start, get my big water tray underneath here, get that all done, and then we'll start taking the fan shroud apart just so we can get a bit more access. So in order to get that big spring clip off, I'm just using a pair of straight nose vice grips, mole grips, and then I'm just going to coax that clip back over the blue pipe, right out the way, and then I can work on getting that off. Now this pipe's only been on for a couple of months, so it should come off fairly easy. If yours doesn't, squirt a bit of WD or something in here, just and then try and twist it, get that in there, and then it should just pop off. I'm going to leave off the radiator cap for the time being because I don't want it to fully gush out on me while I'm down here. And like I said, I want to try and drain from the engine first, and in order to help that I will undo the bleed valve up near the heater matrix. So I'm going to pull this off and get the drain started. So almost straight away I know that the thermostat's closed because the water coming out the blue pipe ran out pretty much straight away. So at least now I know when I come to take the stat off at the top on the other end of this blue pipe, I need to be prepared that it's probably going to gush out a bit more. So I will try and rig up a little guide for the water just to avoid the air conditioning unit. So I'm going to leave this, let it drain. You will notice it does look very, very watery. I've been topping this up for the last few weeks while I've been troubleshooting this overheating problem. Like I said, that's all sorted now, but I'm going to do full coolant change with some fresh antifreeze or fresh coolant. So I'll let this leak out and then come and get to the top. So we're up top now, it's draining away. We need to get as much access around this area as possible to do the thermostat. I've tried cutting corners and leaving the shroud in before. In fact, your engine bay you might have more room. This has got a 350Z radiator in, and it sits proud of the core support. So I believe an OEM one that sits further back, you might have more clearance. I've done it before, I know that I don't. So we've got a couple of 10mm, I think, one there, one there. This is in multiple pieces because it was broke when I got it and it's been in and out multiple times. But there is a clip, or there's a removable shroud, which I didn't know the first time, which goes underneath the fan, and what you need to do is take that out from underneath, and then the whole shroud will pop up around the fan. Now for me it will be pretty tight because of this stupid radiator, but one day I will fix that one. So, but for the time being, that's what I'm going to do. Right, here's that lower shroud removed. There's a couple of these clips, there's two either side, and from underneath you can kind of get your hand in there, wiggle it out. There is another one midway. I can actually leave that in situ, that's fine where it is. Now I can take out the rest of the shroud from above. Mine has been very crudely fitted with some self-tappers. I have got a spare one of these, which I will fit one day when I fit a better radiator, but I'll leave the butchered one in for the time being because it does its job even if it ain't that pretty. So up to the top now and get the shroud out up that. So just while that's doing its final drain, I'm going to open up the bleed valve up here. Now this is a piece by Z1 Motorsport, Z1 Motorsport in America. The original one blew up in my face. Okay, so if you haven't replaced yours, get one of these. I'll put a link below. Invaluable when it comes to bleeding. The stock one's made of some plasticky fibrous stuff, and over time it just fails. It is, I think, designed to be a weak point, but like I said, it exploded in my face. I was lucky to not get blinded. This beauty has been a lifesaver, so fit one of these maybe at the same time, but I'm not going to cover that today. I am going to back it off though, just to help with any more water which needs to drain. Shroud out that. Right, so I had to take out the air box. That's a 10mm there, and then get rid of that one. And there's two 10mm, one there and one there. Now I know that this shroud is broken enough that I can probably pull it up without this being in the way. You might find that's not the case, and you might want to disconnect that one. By now there shouldn't be any water in there anyway. The only water or coolant which is being held will be in the block behind the thermostat. This will have all drained with the radiator. So I'm going to get that off, and then we've got full access down here. Right, so on the thermostat itself we've got three 10mm. They're slightly out of view right now, take my word for it. And I have, based on experience, decided to put this bit of plastic underneath the thermostat just to shield the air conditioning unit, because that's underneath it right there. After the first time I did this, ever since then my AC's squealed when it's been on. It still works fine. So yeah, fully recommend doing this one, because as soon as we get that thermostat out, there's going to be loads of water gushing out from the block, and this should help guide it into the tray that we've got underneath and not fill up your air conditioning unit. I've taken out that pipe altogether just so it's not in the way, and just as I did with the bottom one, I just slid that spring clip over it, and then there's no chance of me losing it. A little bit seeping out, but that now gives me enough room to get in to 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use a long 10mm to get in there. Hopefully that'll do it. If not, I might put another extension on. We'll see how we go. I'll let you know what works. Boom, just like that. So 3 bolts came out. It was a little bit stuck on from the RTV I added last time I fitted it, but it did come off fairly easy. Black bit of plastic worked a treat. I'm just going to let that drain for a bit, and then I'll come back and try it all up and get the other one fitted. Right, I also took off this one just to tuck out the way, to give me a bit more space while I'm trying to clean up the remnants of the old gasket and RTV. Let's see whether we can get in there. So, annoyingly, I thought I had a spare gasket, which I don't, and the last one left a lot of itself on here, so I'm going to have to do a bit of a recon on that one, but it should be fine. So I cleaned up the block using a blade. That's all nice and shiny now. I've got rid of all the old gloop. This is the gasket which I need to do a bit of a refurb on. So you can see some of the black coating has come off of it. So what I'm going to do is scrape it off all the way around and then put a fresh coat of black silicone on it, probably on either side, and then that'll be as good as it should have been anyway. So this is the new stat. I put a good smear of black silicone. I'm going to go around and smooth it out and wipe out the excess. Also bring it out around this corner as well. I'll show you that in a sec. Alright, that's all pretty smooth and even. I used the knife to scrape out any which had kind of overspilled into the housing, which I'll do again in a sec. But first of all, I'm going to put on the gasket. I scraped off everything that's flaky, but I left everything that was still stuck on because it seemed counterproductive to get rid of that when it was still there. So gasket stuck on. Now I'm going to repeat the process with this face and do a little bit more to clean up the outside. I'll use a wipe to get that all nice and good. Okay, I think we're good to go. Cleaned it up as much as I can and got it as thin as I can. I'm going to get it screwed up. I'm going to snug it to start with, and then come back 5-10 minutes later and torque it up then. So just before they go in, I've given them a good coating of copper slip. I did notice that one of the bolts was missing a washer, which might have been why I'd had problems before. So they've now all got one. They should all put the equal amount of pressure on. So let's get it in. Okay, so I've got them all hand tight using this one. They're all equal all the way around. I think what I'll do is give them a quick torque to the lower end of the range and then come back 5-10 minutes later and then torque it up to the higher end of the range. So by the book it says between 8 and 10.9 Newton meters. So I'm going to do it to 8 Newton meters now and then come back and do it probably to 10-12 after the gloops had time to dry. So if you've not used one of these before, make sure you're on the right side. So you can see this is on Newton meters. What I now need to do is back 0 off so that it's 2 off of 10, and I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. So you can see how those lines dip down. We're currently on about 4 Newton meters. So what I'm going to do is wind it up till I get the 0 onto 10, and then wind it back so that it's onto the 8. Then I know that I'm on 8 Newton meters. Once I got it set correctly there, I then tighten up that one just to lock it off. Always important that you do that, otherwise you're not going to get a true torque reading when it does click. And then you know when you've reached torque because it will click. Okay, so important that you don't go over that. Alright, so they're all torqued down now to 8 Newton meters. I'm going to leave them for 5-10 minutes to cure for a bit and then come back and get them down to 12. If you don't have one of these already, I would thoroughly recommend it. Worst thing you can do is over tighten a bolt and snap it, and then you're going to ruin your day, ruin your week. So shouts to father on this one. I've got a good deal, a job lot on a whole load of tools which I never used for about 10 years, and now I use them every day. So my torque wrench and my vernier calipers, a few other things like that, got from Greengrass. So yeah, excellent. So while it was off, I gave it a good clean, and I also gave the clamps a quick lick of paint as well, just to make them look nice. So I'm going to get that on, then I'm going to finish up the overflow bottle replacement, and I'm probably going to have some lunch and leave it to cure for a bit longer before I put any coolant in, so I'm not in a rush today. Alright, got everything back together. I've done a temporary fix on the shroud because that's coming off again in a couple of days anyway. Postie turned up not that long ago with my oil filter, so that's good. I can do 2 jobs without taking it off the ramps. So I'm about to put the coolant back in. Once I fire it up, then I'll put in some engine flush, get it to temperature, and then once the coolant's sorted, then I'll drain the oil. Happy days.